The 2027 Six Pillars at Sea Marriage Getaway is now open, and with only 10 spots remaining, we expect this to sell out. This is your chance to get away together, invest in your marriage, and be part of something truly special with other couples who want an extraordinary marriage too. Get the details and reserve your spot today at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/getaway. That's oneextraordinarymarriage.com/getaway.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
From Estero, Florida, this is a One Extraordinary Marriage Show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex is taking the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. Creators of the 6 Pillars of Intimacy, I'm Tony DiLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663. Or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're talking about what happens when time off becomes another to-do list and your marriage gets squeezed out by projects, interruptions, responsibilities, and everyone else's needs.
There's a quote from John Lubbock that says, "Rest is not idleness." And I would actually take that just a step further and to say, resting with the one you love is not idleness. And we're going to talk about that in today's episode. But we start every episode here at One Extraordinary Marriage with a hug. And if you're brand new, first of all, we want to say welcome. We are so glad to have you joining us for this episode. And just to give you a little background, hugs are an opportunity for us to celebrate what is happening in your lives, where you're taking action, where you're being intentional. And this hug came from a message we received that said, "Presently, I'm working through the 6 Pillars book. I'm working on my list of 6 things I can do to strengthen the 6 pillars. I'm focusing on my intentionality on those 6 actions. Thank you again for your One Extraordinary Marriage podcast. I've been a longtime listener and have found many relevant and insightful tools as I've listened. Thank you for your boldness and willingness to speak into the lives of married folks where there have been generations of deafening silence."
Wow. I love what this person is doing is, taking the 6 Pillars of Intimacy, The Secret to an Extraordinary Marriage, our best-selling book, and going, all right, how can I strengthen these pillars? What are the actions I'm going to take? How am I going to be intentional around it? I mean, we had a whole episode this last week about intentionality and what that word means.
Right.
And more importantly, though, I think we got to be taking action in our marriages to move them forward so we can create those extraordinary marriages that we each desire, that you guys desire, that are completely different than mine and Elisa's. And yet you have 2 people here behind these microphones hanging out in Southwest Florida, cheering you on.
Absolutely. And, as Tony said at the top of this episode, we are talking about what happens when time off becomes another to-do list that's got to get done. And, a lot of times we get asked, where do your episode ideas come from? How does that come about? And, first and foremost, I need to tell you that this particular episode came out of a conversation that we were having as part of the 6 Pillars of Intimacy certified coaching program. We were together with all of these individuals who, and a special shout out to them, they are stepping into getting certified around 6 pillars to be able to help couples and individuals in their communities. And, what's beautiful about this is not only are they learning, but they're also sharing their lives, right? They're sharing what's going on, just like any of you do when you get together with friends. And so we were having a session this past week, and one of the questions that we ask is, "Hey, where have you seen the 6 Pillars of Intimacy show up this past week?" And beautifully, one couple shared with us, well, actually in our own marriage. And, just that vulnerability is such a gift. But they went on to explain that, the comment actually started with, "Well, I'm going to have to go back to work to get some rest." And he was on vacation, but like everything else filled up the week, right? There were projects to be done, ended up with some emergency dental work that needed to be done, and all of these different tasks. So we've got our adult children and, here, there, and everywhere. And as they were sharing the story with the rest of us, the wife said, one of the things we've missed this week is having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And, so for them, it was all about the recreational intimacy pillar, but it really got Tony and I thinking, how often does this happen, right? We've got time off, or maybe it's just a regular Saturday, right? When, doesn't necessarily have to be a scheduled day off. It could just be the way it falls in your week. But you get into this place where, hey, one of you is thinking, it's a day off. We're going to have some fun. There's going to be opportunity for connection. And then you're doing a trip to Lowe's and you're looking at appliances and you've got the yard work and the kids need to go here and all of this other kind of stuff. And you get to bedtime and it's just kind of feeling like, where was the us time?
Mm-hmm. And I think the bigger part here, and I want to share this, and I think we've said this many a times, but I do want to say there are seasons in our lives and in our marriage where that's happening. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of, hey, we just bought a new house. And when I say a new house, it doesn't mean it's a brand new build. I'm just saying for you, it's a new house. That house could be built in the 1950s or it could be built in, 2024, but there becomes the projects and we're doing those. And for many of you do know that we moved here to Southwest Florida from Southern California, hadn't owned a home in Southern California in 15 years, moved here, rented for a year, and then by the grace of God, we were able to buy our first home in about 16 years. Mm-hmm. And so you get into these places, though, where when you're renting, something happens, you just call, the homeowner and be like, hey, or the management come in and go, hey, go fix it. Now, when it happens, it's like, oh, shoot, we got to do that.
We are the fix-it crew.
We do that. And so the time off can feel like, again, doing a staycation or something of that nature, where you're like, oh, we get some time to relax. And yet now, because of everything that's been going on in your lives, it's stacked up. Mm-hmm. We got to get some things done. And it can feel like we are missing out on those activities we do together, the fun time we have together. I cannot tell you how many times, and Elisa could share this as well, where the recreational intimacy pillar, we're hearing more and more from many couples where, yes, emotional intimacy is vastly important. Sexual intimacy, yes. And yet more and more, this recreational intimacy pillar, how do we have fun together? Mm-hmm. How do we do these activities together? How do we find the time when everything else is on our to-do list and we planned on a long weekend to do nothing, and yet the refrigerator may break down, the toilet doesn't want to work like it should, somebody's room needs to be painted, maybe there's yard work that needs to be done. Are you
talking about us?
And those are just the things that we got to do in our own home. And we got pretty much a newer home build here in Southwest Florida. But it can feel daunting at times to create that fun.
Well, and you bring up the recreational intimacy, and that came up for so many of the coaches as they were talking about, what pillars had they seen, and whether it was their own marriage or people they were talking to or just interactions they'd seen. So many of them were talking about this recreational intimacy, and it's something that as a coach, I recognize has to be, it is a great first place for couples to start, because when you have these blocks of time where you think you're going to connect, or there would be opportunity to connect and you don't, when you don't have the fun, when you're not just, and please hear me, I know for some of you doing the home projects is a whole lot of fun. That's actually your recreational intimacy.
I was going to say, that is a good point.
So we don't need the emails to say, well, Lisa, we love to, we know, but that's not the case for everybody. And even then, sometimes it can overwhelm your time so that you aren't getting that connection. You aren't having fun. You aren't making the memories and laughing together and going, oh my gosh, like you're the one that I get to do these projects with. What I see so often in coaching is that when there's this expectation around time off, or when there is time off, both husband and wife can have different expectations on how that time is going to be spent. Right? Because you see it on the calendar, we got nothing on the calendar, and one spouse is like, oh my gosh, we're going to have time together. Like, this is so awesome. I have missed you so much. And the other one is looking at that blank box on the calendar, that empty slot, and going, oh my gosh, I am going to get, we are going to get so much done. But a lot of times those expectations aren't spoken or they aren't managed. And so you can have this tug of war between connection and completion, or rest and relief around all of the things that are piling up. And then you get to a place where you're like, well, that time didn't feel very fulfilling. Like, what just happened there? It feels like we're missing that opportunities that we have with one another. And some of you may be in seasons of life where those opportunities are like small 1 hour windows because you are chauffeuring kids all over the place between all of their activities, or maybe you're balancing between your children and your aging parents and work and volunteer. And you're looking at like, we have an hour. And I'll tell you, I actually hadn't thought I was going to share this, but I'll share it again. And I know I've shared it previously, is that the first time Tony and I ever talked around our 60-day sex challenge and around changing our marriage, somebody said, hey, what about the dishes and the laundry, right? All those tasks, right? It could be something else that maybe you've got going on, but the dishes and the laundry can be that tangible expression of we've got things on the to-do list. And I remember looking at this person, this wife in this audience, and I said, there will always be the things on the to-do list. I have a family. There will always be something that needs to get done. But Tony's not a guarantee, right? Like, I've got finite years with him. We talked about this in last week's episode, right? Just the health and staying healthy.
A couple weeks ago.
And so being in this place of saying, what happens if we make this shift to bring attention back to one another? What happens if we look at our recreational intimacy and we create a plan to actually have fun? Not to ignore all of our responsibilities, right? We're adults. We have responsibilities. We do have to adult. But can we create extraordinary marriages that look at the time that we have and say, how are we going to do both, right? This is a both and exercise. How are we going to both make time to have fun, love on one another, love up one another, laugh together, make memories, and do the grown-up stuff that we have to do? I do believe that extraordinary marriages can bridge that recreational intimacy with emotional intimacy and create the extraordinary in bringing all of that together. And I think each one of you is capable of doing that, because if you get into this place of it's all about the tasks and you miss out on the connection, well, who cares that your stuff's all done? I mean, it's nice to have the to-do list completed. It's nice to be able to go, yeah, we got that project done. But if you're in this place where too often the time off is just another completion of your to-do list, it might be time to look at what needs to change in how the two of you evaluate your time and manage your time as a couple, as a team. And we're going to talk about how to do that after this break.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The empty seat. Who was actually just that, an empty chair in your office because you couldn't find someone to fill it. So it just sat there costing you money with all its fancy ergonomic features. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can make it easy to fill that seat with the right candidate. With nearly 60% of businesses finding someone to interview in the first week alone. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
We gather here tonight to bring women back to their rightful place.
The Testaments, a new Hulu original series from the executive producers of The Handmaid's Tale.
It's easier to accept a story than believe that the people around you are monsters.
The battle isn't over.
There comes a time when you have to take action, when you have to choose your own destiny.
Never quite as it seems.
Watch the new Hulu original series, The Testaments, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
We're back, and we're talking about what to do when time off just becomes another to-do list to be completed. And your marriage is more about projects and responsibilities and everyone else's needs than about the two of you and the memories that you're completing. And it's really, it's interesting. I had a coaching session the other day, and working with a couple there in their late 60s, early 70s. And she was telling me, she's like, Elisa, she goes, we have to work on our marriage. We have to. Like, I know that there are more years behind us than there are ahead of us. And I don't want to have any regrets. She goes, this is why it's so important that we work on making our marriage extraordinary. Mm-hmm. And it struck me in that moment that it's about getting into this place of saying, yes, there are things on the to-do list, but how do we put one another at the top of that to-do list so that we aren't in, 40, 50 years going, shoot, I should have spent more time. We should have made more memories. We should have invested in our recreational intimacy and had all of those laughs together at the same time that we were doing the adulting stuff. So for some of you, when you've got that time off, you're going to need to actually have a conversation, hello, emotional intimacy pillar, around what's the purpose of the time. Tony and I do this. We just had this long weekend, right? And going into the weekend, it was like, all right, well, we've got these chunks of time. We have, he mentioned painting. Yes, we've got another painting project, but we talked about when that was going to get done.
I like how Elisa said we have another painting project. That means Tony has another painting project.
I do help.
Elisa will walk into the doorway and go, that looks good.
You need encouragement. And I help you move the furniture out of the room. So technically I do help with that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm doing all the work.
You are the painter. You are a phenomenal
I am the taper.
house
I am
painter.
the painter.
I am the house painter cheerleader.
That's it. Right.
And help furniture mover.
Yes. I agree with you on that. Really what Elisa was saying here, and I do agree with her, more than anything, we're going to have these chores. We're going to have these tasks on our lists, right? And it doesn't matter if you got a long weekend, you got some time off, or you're doing a staycation. The biggest thing I think for Elisa and I have learned over the years in talking to so many, we're going to have these things to do. Like, let's be honest. Unless you're living in a socioeconomic where you have people doing everything for you, which is awesome, and God bless you. For those of us who don't, we're going to be doing these things and having to determine what needs to be done and doing it most likely. Some of it's going to be DIY. Sometimes we're going to have people come in and take care of certain projects. And yet, are we going to get those times on the calendar for us? Mm-hmm. And Elisa and I, in particular, this time of year, our pool is hot. Warm. Let's just put it this way. It's walk-in ready, which is what we like.
That's my preferred temperature.
No chill to it. So are we going to be purposeful in finding time on our calendar when we have a long weekend or we have time off and are at home to go outside, enjoy the sunshine, get in our pool, swim around, talk, do our thing? And having to do that before the rains hit and the lightning and the thunder and everything else that comes with it. And so we have to be purposeful in knowing that that's what we enjoy this time of year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something also to understand. Seasons of the year, the calendar year, could also dictate how you're having fun together.
Yes.
For some of you, this time of year, it's boating. Mm-hmm. We got some dear friends up in North Carolina. They love boating. And on the weekend, they're going to get out on their boat and they're going to go enjoy the lake. They're purposeful about it. They spend time getting out there, doing things there. In the middle of winter, though, even here in Southwest Florida, we don't heat our pool. Our community pool is heated, so on a nice day, we can get on over there on a Sunday afternoon. We'll be purposeful about that. We'll do it. But our friends in North Carolina, the boat's covered up, man. It's cleaned up. It's out of the water. So that activity time, that fun time shifts. And so I think that's one of the things we have to think about. We got time off, right? Summer, there's a lot of different times off and whatever. But when we get into that winter time, when you think about it, you got Thanksgiving week. Yes, Thanksgiving's right there dab in the middle of it. And yet there's still time off. You got Christmas. You got New Year's. There's so many other opportunities even when you're taking off. But what is the activity in that season too? Because I think sometimes we go, well, this is the only thing I love and what we love doing. But then when we're out of season, we don't know what to do with one another.
It's cultivating that recreational intimacy as well. And again, it's being intentional, like we were talking about last week, around your life, around your extraordinary marriage. So giving purpose to your time, planning one thing for connection. Mm-hmm. Like some of you are just like, hey, well, we're going to hang out. Well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What does it mean? Is it like going to breakfast together? Maybe making breakfast together. Is it going for a walk? Is it hanging in the pool? Is it going to the lake? Maybe it's just a simple dinner or dancing around your kitchen. It's being in this place of saying, first of all, let's rediscover what we like to do in this season. And that may be a conversation for some of you because ages and stages, or like Tony was saying, hot weather, cold weather, what do we like to do in this season? And then what are we going to do with the time that we have? Mm-hmm. I know not everybody. I know lots of you are like, but Elisa, I just want it to be spontaneous. I hear you. Have a list of ideas that work for your spontaneous time and then pick one. But if you've had the conversation on what works when you're being spontaneous, then it's very easy to say, hey, let's dance in the kitchen or let's go grab an ice cream cone. But if you never have the conversation, some of you will actually be afraid or reluctant to put forth an idea for connection because you don't know how that's going to be received.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say this real quick too. As we're talking about this, while we were on the 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway cruise,
yes,
we talked about recreational intimacy, and everybody who was there with us, they got this amazing gift. And we'll put a link to it here in the episode notes, but it says, let's go deep. Date night dice by Relatable. That's what it is. It doesn't need to be a date night. It could be a date anything. But there are 4 dice, and in them, one is eat, play, love, share. There are 4 dice, and each one is eat, play, love, share. What you do is you take the 4 dice, you pull them out. They're nice big dice too, with big letters on them so you can read them. Roll them and see what it lays out. And there's a way that you could go do something. Mm-hmm. Now, for some of you, you may be like, well, I really don't want to eat that. Okay, well, change it. You can make changes to it, but it's a way for us. And when we shared this with all those couples who joined us on the 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway, it's something fun for us to do.
Right.
We break it up. If you got a long staycation or even a short staycation and you're finding yourself just doing the day-to-day task or getting things done on the to-do list, maybe this is a fun way for you midday to go, all right, what are we doing this evening?
And here's the thing. You don't necessarily have to roll all 4 dice.
That's true too.
Right? I think there were like 1,200 permutations. A couple of my mathematical friends on the cruise figured that out for me. I don't remember it, so I'm not going to. I don't either. But like if you just wanted to do the play, how could we play? Well, just roll that dice. Again, it's about creating connection. It's about saying, hey, we have this finite amount of time, whether you're just talking about, a day of the staycation or acknowledging the fact that we are living human beings. And at some point in time, we are going to die. So like, I don't care if your finite is this weekend or if your finite is, hey, I may only have 80 years, right? It's looking at that and saying, what is our connection going to look like? And how are we going to take opportunities to connect, to create our extraordinary marriage? This isn't just connecting for the sake of like Elisa and Tony said so. No, it's connecting because on the other side of your intentional time with your spouse is the opportunity for the two of you to become extraordinary, to learn what works, to learn what maybe didn't work this time. right? But to have those conversations, because as you're going after your extraordinary, just like, the couples and individuals that are, becoming certified coaches, you are taking those intentional steps. You are learning how to have the conversations. You are being in this place of saying, you know what? What's one action that I can do? What can I do? What can we do to create our extraordinary marriage?
Yeah, I love it. When I look at this, don't let the to-do list take over don't let the to-do list impact the way that you connect and get close around your recreational intimacy. Don't let it be the only focus. What can you do so that way we can have fun? Like when I say we, you and your spouse, so we can have fun. And again, I get it. We live in the real world, folks. Elisa and I do as well. We're not doing this 24/7, and yet we are still trying to figure out ways and times where we can just go out and have fun. Just as a reminder, both of our adult children still live at home with us. And so because of that, we are having to find ways to engage one another without them around. We thought this would be a different season of life, and even our own recreational intimacy, we have to pay attention to it, because if not, it could get filled up with just doing things with the children. And so wherever you may be, maybe you're about to have a staycation, maybe you're about to go on a vacation, maybe you're just having a long weekend, you're wondering, what the heck do we do? Find some time on your calendar. Make it a point. Make your marriage a priority. Strengthen your recreational intimacy, and find an activity or something fun that the two of you can do this week. You guys have yourselves a fantastic one. We'll catch you next week. Love you guys.